Welcome back to another episode of After Effects. Said he said, co-host Mrs. Sutton.
What's up, y'all?
She taking over the show today, so I'm gonna let her tell you what's about to go down, and it's all on her after this.
All right, y'all. So, check this out. Mr. Sutton, Mr. CJ himself, has asked me to interview him. Now, if you guys been following the podcast, then y'all know that Mr. Sutton is a little raw and uncut.
What's up, Poland?
So, without further ado,
God help us all.
let's get into it. Mr. Sutton,
He left.
you have a story to tell.
Something like that.
And that story has, in a lot of ways, carried over into your adulthood.
Yeah.
Explain to me some of the situations that came with being raised by a teenage mother.
Honestly, there's a reason for those of you that believe in God that it clearly states married and didn't have children. Now, here's the kicker. I was produced in marriage. However, it's not cool to be married in your teens. Because just in case something, not all cases, but in my case, something transpires where the relationship, aka marriage, don't work out, whoever that child winds up with has to go along with all the bull crap that is in the preceded future.
Now, would you say that because she was a child, raising a child, would you agree that a lot of mistakes were made because of that dynamic?
That's a trick question for the simple fact of, as the person that had the child, I truthfully believe she did all she could do and knew how to do. But as the child in the situation, I don't give a flying flabbergastic what you did or did not know. I did not ask to be here. Thus, for whatever bullcrap you getting ready to go through was not my responsibility to help you carry such an atrocity of loaded.
Now, I will agree to that. But what I have found is the oldest child of especially single parent homes bear a lot of the responsibility for the absence of the missing parent. Would you say that because of the absence of the other parent, that you became the other parent as well as the child?
Again, and I'm going to say it louder for the people in the back. As the child in the situation, I do not care what transpired in your relationship, aka marriage. I did not ask to be here because I am here now. It is not my responsibility to pick up where either one of y'all dropped the ball.
I would agree, but did you have to?
Of course I had to.
Mm-hmm.
I still didn't care. This wasn't my responsibility.
Now, that's very true that it wasn't your responsibility. But we find...
However, because of that situation, such cases like mine results in no childhood.
Facts. Now, I'm going to kick it over into this point. There ultimately became a second marriage. With that being said, do you think that it is a good idea to marry past a certain age gap?
How can I say this respectfully?
Respectfully.
And I'm not really a respectful person.
Yes, you are. Quit lying to these folks.
Not when I say what I want to say, I'm not.
But you're going to use coof.
I don't know how to spell coof.
For the USA, for Poland, you're going to use coof.
I don't know how to spell it, but I'm going to do the best that I can to be nice. With that being stated, if you are one of those people that was unfortunate enough to be married in your teens and have children and later separated or divorced, before you go run and jump in the bed or in the sack with the next individual, no matter how much of a centurion they are, and for those of you that don't know what a centurion is, somebody a heck of a lot older than you. Seek therapy, counsel, more therapy, a priest, and more counsel.
You're so silly, but I know you being real.
Because if you do not, the baggage from the first will carry over to the second. And if you do not do a definitive, thorough background on that other person and watch how they interact, you could become damnation to yourself as well as your offspring. Very important point I'm getting ready to make here. If you are just dating someone, excuse me, and I'm going to repeat this. If you are dating someone, you got kids, they got kids, and you go over to their house, they kids running up and down the stairs, in and out the house, hollering and cussing at each other, using B's, H's, and all kind of absurd amenities. That is not a relationship that you're going to want to consume and or pursue. Because if you have trained your children to say yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am, and then you add that toxicness into the mix, you can be as sure as the sun rises and sets, that you will not have a shed of peace if you don't go to God first.
Now,
Because if you don't make sure you hear from God and you intertwine all that, there will be chaos, there will be problems, and you will lose the respect of your children for dragging them through the toxicness that you have okayed and gave a pass to.
now let's dive into that a little bit. Blended households. Now, when you become a part of a blended household, I have seen some that have worked. I have seen division in others. Do you think that before a household should become blended, that each parent should speak to each set of children and bring the children together to see how they interact before throwing them all in the same house?
Honestly, this is my personal opinion. If you're going to become a blended family, first thing first, the two adults in the situation need to go to counseling. Then, later on down the line in their counseling, they need to bring the children into the mix.
I totally agree.
Everybody needs to be in front of that counselor, because whether or not you care, if the children don't like it or not, they still have a voice.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and parents makes this just so terrible because they do this all the time. They make the mistake of thinking that children shouldn't be respected or they have a voice.
Mm-hmm.
That's the worst mistake you can make.
I totally agree.
Because the children will tell you a key to your future.
Now, I totally agree to that, because when my adoptive mother got ready to get married in my junior year, they went to premarital counseling. At some point in that premarital counseling, I was brought in, just due to the fact that for 2 years, it was just her and I.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're adding a third party into our household.
Right.
I was asked what my thoughts were. Did I have any hiccups about the situation? And honestly, I loved him. I didn't have no issue with it, but looking back at that, for someone who was 16, I'm grateful that I was considered. Because as you said, many adults just say, hey, I'm grown, I pay the bills, this is who I want to be with, and you're just going to have to accept whoever or whatever. I feel that when we throw kids into this confusing structure, that honestly you get what you get. And that might sound crazy. People think kids shouldn't be acting up and they should just automatically have respect for adults. I don't believe that. That's an old school mentality that says kids automatically should be taught to respect authority. Now, to some degree, that's true.
Seen and not be heard.
Right. To some degree, that is true. They're an adult. You are a child. You should listen. You should be obedient. But for you, Mr. Sack, what was it like being the child and the adult and being disrespected in the same token? Because in 1 minute you're a kid and you're told to be a kid. And the next minute you're asked to be an adult. But the person who should have been running the household is being disrespectful. What are your thoughts on that?
Honestly, and I just got to be honest, the worst part about growing up in that household is I hated it. I hated it with a passion. And I don't ever like to use the word hate because it's such a despicable word.
It is.
But growing up in that household was quite possibly the worst thing that could ever happen to any one human being.
Why?
Because, number one, we never jailed. It was always a us versus them mentality. The two kids from both sides, we fought all the time. And I'm not just talking about some elementary, preschool, high school fight. It got so bad that we started using 2x4s. I promise you, on each other. Baseball bats. We got to throwing chairs at each other. And keep in mind, this is all mostly before we turned 15. We tried to kill each other. Like, literally, it got to the point that we literally, and I knew that was God speaking inside of us. When I tell you we started using weapons, at one point I threw a whole VCR at one of his kids' head. We was always fighting. Twice, a plug was bit out of my arm, and I had a whole bit in my stomach. I still got some of the scars to this day. With the other one, she was 100% Hellraiser. I mean, anything humanly possible you can do to a single person without putting hands on them or threatening them with weapons, they did. I mean, they disappearing from school. Police running in and out the house. It was almost a physical altercation just about every day. No matter what time. Midnight, 1, 2, 3 in the morning. I'll never forget one night I was waking to the sounds of an altercation where I had to basically go and call the police because those two individuals had got to the point to where they wanted to, I guess everybody thought it was a good idea to pull knives on each other at this point.
Oh, boy. I mean, here's my thing. As crazy as it may sound, you are giving some for real solid advice. So now y'all are grown.
Mm-hmm.
And you all have went y'all separate ways.
Yeah.
Whether that's good, bad, or indifferent. What do you say to the parent that looks at their child after enduring all of that and says, I did the best I could?
Knowing the child, if the child was anything like me and that child predominantly loved the parent that they was with versus the one that they wasn't, then they would have kept quiet. But all the time, that child is 100% thinking, you talking about you did your best. You are 100% utterly full of BS.
Don't choke me up now, Mr. Sutton.
Because even though we're grown now, I can honestly say to this day, I associate with his son a little bit when I feel like it. But the girl, I can't stand the ground she walks on to this very day. In the words of Eminem, I wouldn't pee on fire to put her out.
I can, knowing some of the stuff, I can understand why you would say that. So let's jump to the topic of forgiveness. You are a grown man now. You have been married for 3 years.
Been that long?
Yep. Been that long. You a married old man now, man.
That's cool.
Now, with that being said, can you say that over the course of the years, you have forgiven?
Forgiven who?
Well, now that you are out of the fire and you are a safe distance away, have you had time to process your emotions properly?
This is an uncharted territory because, see, a lot of people think that physical abuse is the worst kind of abuse that you can suffer.
But it's not.
Mental abuse is the dominant trait. Why? Because as I stated previously, to go through such toxicness and turmoil for so long, you haven't forgot the first year and a half of our marriage. I honestly put you through hell. Because
That's true.
unassisted or attached or whatever you want to call it, you were chosen and put directly in the middle of some BS. And because of that, you unjustly caught demonic wrath from me, which I can publicly say I am very sorry for here today. But as far as that forgiveness concerned, I forgive because I have to, because I do plan on going to heaven someday. But honestly, let's talk about it. When I got COVID last year, it did a number on me. I doggone near died.
That's because you were dealing with 3 respiratory issues at one time.
Right.
Already being an asthmatic.
Right.
And then dealing with COVID, and then ending up with what they call COVID pneumonia.
Mm-hmm. Now,
I'm still trying to figure out why there is a P in that word, but
don't do it to yourself. I'm telling you, you give yourself a headache. Trust me. But I for the first time in my life, I had to go into a hospital. I ain't never been hospitalized in my whole entire life. Last time I spent overnight in a hospital, I had just arrived here. That was back in 1985. So that was 37 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I was there 8 days and 7 nights. For the first 72 hours in the hospital, I went through trauma, man. I see why they call that place the place of death, torment, and destruction. Because as I'm laying in this freaking hospital bed, for the first 72 hours, and this is playing on my psyche. I don't think I ever told you this. But because y'all my family, I'm going to go ahead and spit this to you. For the first 72 hours, I was worried about dying in the hospital. I was worried about somebody breaking in my house. And because the hospital is pretty much where the adversary, the devil, pretty much lives at, I got a young hot wife that's at the house by herself. He coming and telling me, oh, you know, since you in the hospital, she out cheating on you.
Well, that's insanity.
She creeping around on you. Then I'm thinking about, okay, I got all these bills. I ain't got no money. I ain't making no money right now. On top of that, if you truly know Said has a zero tolerance for a lot of bullcrap because of how I grew up. So what does these nice, wonderful people do at the hospital? They stick me in a room with an old freaking man. Now, I already can't get no sleep. I ain't been asleep in like 2 days. So I figured that I'll try to get some sleep. I'm not eating nothing. I'm going to just go ahead and try to get some sleep and be cool. They get this dude one of them freaking talking beds. Now, I'm already mad and I got the devil playing mind tricks on me. This dude stand up, the bed talks. Doggone bed talking about, sir, if you don't sit back down, I am going to call the nurse. Every 2.5 minutes, something over there going off. Whether that was his heart monitor, the what you call that doggone thing?
What, the alarms?
The breathing machine, the little thing that they stick in your arms.
IV.
The IV going off. I mean, this dude has so many machines going off. Now, I'm on the highest oxygen at the time that they got. Mm-hmm. I got all kind of issues. But the roommate that I got is getting on my nerves. So I figured that I'll go over there and kill him and then I probably can get some sleep. Now, I couldn't get out of bed because I was just having problems. Like, I moved the wrong way. I couldn't breathe. So I was thinking about going to kill him. But since I couldn't move, I just had to sit there and endure it. And I had endured this for freaking 6 straight days.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, they didn't move me to the 6th day.
No, babe. You went into the hospital that Wednesday.
I'm telling you, I was in his room 4 to 5 days. I guarantee you.
You shared a room with him Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
And they moved me on Sunday, which I said 4 to 5 days.
Monday they moved you.
So that's 5 days.
Thursday you came home.
Okay, whatever. I still was in the room with him 5 days. And I still was trying to kill him.
You cannot do that.
Even though I was on the highest oxygen. Anyway, he got on my nerves. So then by the time they moved me, I had pretty much, I'm going to go ahead and make my peace with this. I'm just going to go ahead and die. My wife was up there. She was talking to her sister on the phone. And I had closed my eyes. I'm making peace. And then my nephew talked. One of the twins. I'll never forget that. Because I still hear it as clear as day. He like, Uncle, I love you. Get well. I hope to see you soon. Now, for the first time in my whole 37 years, I opened up my eyes and my heart started beating. Because I had took my heart out a long time ago because the world had been so cruel and cold to me. I ain't care about nothing and no one. I'm like, that's right. I'm an uncle now. And these dudes look up to me.
Only because they like beating you up.
I don't even want to talk about them. And then I thought about my other nephews and my other nieces. And as special ed as my sister is, her and my brother love me too.
Which you might want to call your brother because you might want to fix that little situation.
Yeah, I'm going to talk to him, but I'm going to wait till I get some green. And then when we fix that, you know, he talks better when you give him money. So, yeah.
Believe me, I know.
Yeah. But, like, man, I got a group of folks. Even though most of them was on my extended side and my wife's side, they truly love me. So I was like, all right, cool. Then the nurse came in, telling my wife she got to get out because it's 5 o'clock. And I nicely reminded her that my wife is married to me and she needs to go and be about her business.
Now, here's the whole entire thing, though. That experience.
But I still got one part to lead up before you get to that. Now, fast forward. I came home.
Hallelujah.
Yep. Well, right out the hospital.
Fussing as soon as you got
Yeah, I
out the
was
hospital.
fussing because I was trying to figure out what happened to the car. But if y'all got wives, you know they keep dresses, shoes, purses, socks. I mean, just they shouldn't even call it a car. They should just call it a wardrobe change on the road.
Whatever.
But,
the car was not that bad. Don't even.
Whatever. Okay. But I came home. And
to a nice clean house.
Yeah, the house was cool. I ain't have a problem with the house. But the folks came down because they brought my granny back. Now, even though I appreciate this man raising me and I love him, I thought that me being at death's door would have ended all the bull crap that had went on in the household, and we would actually start to become friends and get along. But as Tyler Perry said in one of his movies and plays, oh, that's a fool who thinks that. Needless to say, I'm sitting in the car on my breathing machine, and I get told I'm not coming to your house or coming around you because I don't want what you got.
He said he ain't coming around until he get his shots.
Same thing.
I get it. But if we're going to quote the person, we got to quote them.
Whatever. That irritated, and I'm still lightweight, still mad about that.
So here's the thing. That experience, because let's be transparent here. You were experiencing that on one side, and I, as your wife, was experiencing that on the other side. But I'll be transparent as well. I was experiencing a lot of emotional stuff going on with that situation because, one, we were already at a rough patch.
Yeah.
Because
I will work all the time and we were hardly speaking to each other.
Because I was pouring my heart out to you. And I felt you were shunning it. As I was saying, I want to spend time with you. I want to...
Given the mindset, I probably was.
Mm-hmm. But we were already in a difficult place. And a lot of it had to do with the fact that, let's just be honest, Mr. Sutton is very hard-headed.
Bite me.
And I will never be the one to say that being vaccinated fixes everything.
Okay, just for starters, I would like to say, yes, I was one of those special ed folks.
Who said that your wife was going to transform into an alien for getting vaccinated?
Continue.
Needless to say, you worked in healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
Me being your wife, I was saying, babe, you need to take all precautions. You work in healthcare. I did not want anything happening to you that ultimately could have been prevented.
This isn't trending anymore, but I finally decided to make some beauty.
Needless to say, we hit this situation. And I got to give credit where credit is due. Even if it was just via phone, your mama was there. She didn't hang up. She was listening when I was trying to run to take a shower. She was there. And I have to say, I definitely appreciate that. Because throughout the whole entire situation, I had a nice, powerful praying support system. Now, this first time in 2 years, I done been by myself. I'm lonely. Every time I'm hearing your roommates' alarms and beds and everything going off, my stomach is jumping. I'm jumping out my sleep.
I don't think nobody truly understand how much I really wanted to kill him.
Man.
I wanted to burn the whole bed with him in it.
No, I mean, for real, because at this point, yes, I was at the hospital every single day. Sick myself.
Yep.
Every day.
Mm-hmm.
Making sure you was clean, making sure you was good. Everything, every day.
Yes, you did. Got me to the bathroom and bathed me. I will never forget that.
However, when you're on the phone and you can't see stuff and everything is going off and everything is going on around you, it was insane.
Tell me about it. It was worse being in the hospital because literally, if it wasn't him in his little stupid bed getting on my nerves, they kept coming in there every 2 freaking hours. Mr. Sutton is trying to draw blood. And I got to the point where I started cussing at him. I said, didn't you MFs just come in here and get blood 2 hours ago? Sir, you don't have to talk to that. I thought you was a Christian man. I am, but even Peter cut a dude ear off.
You're so silly. But what I loved is, because I had to fight for you to get the bariatric bed and getting your own room. And when they told me they was finally moving you that Monday, I was so happy. And I just remember falling on my knees and praying to God, because I didn't want you in there any longer than what you need to. And
I know. I told you. By the 4th day, I had made my peace. I was ready to die.
Yeah, buddy, nah, that ain't how that was gonna work. I'm sorry. You ain't cutting my marriage short. But
it wasn't that I was ready to give up on you. That whole ordeal, trying to breathe, and then it seemed like your heart almost keeps stopping. Like every time I would breathe, it's like my heart stopped. And then I freaking go into these anxieties and panic attacks. Then my blood pressure shoot up through the roof. I was sick and tired. I was tired of fighting. Because everything that I have been through in my whole entire life up until that point, I was physically, mentally, and emotionally tired.
Now, I could say that, wow, I don't understand it on that end.
Because I was on the phone. I had my eyes closed, trying to get some rest. But I heard when she said, do you think my son is coming home out the hospital? Because she asked me a few times, are you okay? I don't know. I'm a big dude. I'm over 6 feet tall. Very few things scare me. I went from making almost $2,000 every 2 weeks to laying in a hospital bed by snapping my freaking fingers.
And here's the thing. I don't think you really understand. I carried all of that. Because as I'm praying, as our church leaders, oh, shout out to BGM, are praying, as our family is praying, I'm having to keep my spirit uplifted. Then I'm having to uplift your spirit. I'm having to uplift your mama's spirit. I'm not telling my grandmother what's going on because, ooh, Lord.
That would have been a
whole horse of another color. I'm carrying all of this. Not to mention, I'm just started a new term. And I'm carrying stuff academically. While I'm checking on you, I'm still trying to keep track on what's going on with my grandmother in a whole nother county. And trying to make sure that I'm sending her the things that she needs while I'm trying to focus on my husband, while I'm trying to focus on my schooling, and I'm being asked questions like, is he going to be okay? He's asking me, is he going to make it? Yes, he is. Because before you went in, God already said you was coming out. That's the faith I stood on. But I'm not going to sit here and say that was not hard on me. Nor am I going to sit up here and say that the recovery process, even after you came home, was easy on me. Because basically I went 3 weeks with barely any sleep. From the time you tested positive to the time that you really started exhibiting symptoms of it. If you up in the night, I'm up in the night. If you sleep, I'm sleep. If you up, I'm up. And when you went into the hospital, it didn't change. I was on the phone all night when visiting hours was over. You was trying to sleep. I'm listening for the nurses. I'm listening for the doctors. I'm talking to them while you're asleep, getting your vitals. I'm up, I'm down. I'm up, I'm down. When you came home and the panic attacks was going on and the anxiety attacks was going on and you had been sitting down and laying down for a whole week and you lost a good amount of mobility. And you had to relearn to move again. And
relearn to walk.
I mean, you knew how to walk, but it was your ankles and your feet wasn't as strong as it was because you wasn't using it. So it was kicking your body back into gear, into moving, into doing the basic things that you were doing on your own. And if you getting up at 4 a.m. to go to the bathroom, I'm walking right with you. But it taught me something. It showed increased my faith. but it taught me something. And I will say that I absolutely love you.
I love you more.
And I'm not doing this thing called life without you.
As in my boo-boo.
So this is why I say, even in the midst of that, we going back and forth, we bickering, we mad at each other. But in that moment, we understood how much we really loved each other.
Yeah.
We learned to apologize. We learned to forgive. That same thing has to apply in all areas of our life, because life is short. And I totally agree with you. As the child in the situation, there is no excuse. But now we're grown and we can say, you couldn't give what you didn't have. Now here's the question before we run out of time. What would you say to your kid self now that you grown and you on the other side of it? What would you say to the child you?
Honestly, thinking about everything I'd have been through, I would have let me put it this way. Well, remember, I went through a very long stretch of dealing with suicide. I tried everything. It's hard because even with some things, I felt that I wasn't protected. And it's honestly still to this day shocking that I wound up with you, because going through that turmoil left me angry. It left me bitter. It left me full of destruction. Because nobody was listening. Nobody heard the little boy crying underneath a tree in a thunderstorm. Children don't ask to come here. They don't ask to be born. People putting themselves in adult situations is how children arrive. The mental psyche of being mentally abused is hard. Because you don't just destroy that one person, but you destroy future relationships that they may have.
If the person refuses to heal.
Give me a second. I had to be strong. because during the toxic years before I was able to get set free, I had a responsibility that I took on. I figured that if I take the blunt of the venom and hatred that was spewed at me, then my little brother would be safe. A lot of years later, my brother is uncertain who he is. Because mental abuse only just don't cause you to doubt yourself. It causes you to have religious issues. If you grow up in a Christian environment, it causes you to believe that God hated you. For many years, I believed that I was his biggest mistake.
Until
I believe that he created me to pick on because he did not protect me from all that bullcrap that I went through.
Until
I believe that he forced me to be the brunt of hatred. And then last October 25th happened. Go back a few days. Last October 20th happened. I find out that I attracted the coronavirus. It got worse as the day prolonged. And then one night I woke up, I said, "Car, I can't breathe. You got me out." Ambulance came and got me. And for the next 8 days, I went through a turmoil that I wouldn't wish on my enemy. Everything, all fears, showed up in that place of sorrow. I was broken down lower than I ever been. Church folks call it a mourning bench. But that played a huge part. But I made a deal with God. I said, if he let me see you one more time, I would cherish the time I had with you and do the very best that I can to do right by you. Thus far, I've created this podcast. I went back to school at OMS, Ohio Media School, to learn how to do audio engineering to prepare the way. I don't know if she's going to do a part 2 or not to this, but I want y'all to know every day we talk is a new healing process. So as I begin to heal, I want you to heal. This is CJ. This is Miss Sutton. This is After Effects.
peace, y'all.